I need to tell you something that's been keeping me awake at night for the past 17 months. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me. Comment your city name below and tell me, have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky lately? Anything that doesn't quite belong? NASA has been quietly collecting civilian observations, and what we're discovering is more widespread than anyone anticipated. Please leave your city name now. What I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe. My name is Michio Kaku, and for over 4 decades I've dedicated my life to understanding the fundamental laws that govern reality itself. I've spent countless hours pondering the nature of space-time, the birth of stars, the death of galaxies, and the probability of intelligent life beyond our pale blue dot. I've always approached these questions with the measured optimism of a scientist, the careful rationality of a physicist who believes that every mystery, given enough time and data, can eventually be explained. But what happened with 3 Atlas has shaken that foundation in ways I never thought possible. I'm speaking to you now not as a tenured professor, not as a television personality, but as a human being who has seen something that challenges everything we thought we knew about our cosmic neighborhood. And I'm speaking to you because what's happening right now at this very moment demands that we have a conversation humanity has been avoiding for far too long. Let me take you back to when it all began. When the Atlas survey system in Hawaii first detected it. At the time, it seemed unremarkable. Just another interstellar object passing through our solar system, following in the wake of Oumuamua, that strange, elongated visitor that had puzzled astronomers 2 years prior. We designated it 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object ever observed by human instruments. It was traveling at approximately 29 kilometers per second, an extraordinary velocity that immediately told us this object originated from beyond our sun's gravitational influence. The initial data suggested it was a comet, perhaps 2 to 3 kilometers in diameter, composed of frozen volatiles and ancient stardust from another stellar system. Beautiful, certainly. Scientifically valuable, absolutely. But dangerous or unprecedented? At the time, no one thought so. We were wrong. The first anomaly appeared. Astronomers at the European Southern Observatory noticed something peculiar in 3I Atlas's light signature. The object was fragmenting, breaking apart as it approached the sun, a behavior we'd seen in comets before, nothing too alarming on the surface. But here's what made my blood run cold when I saw the data. The fragmentation pattern was wrong, completely wrong. When comets break apart, they do so chaotically, irregularly, following the thermodynamic stresses placed on their ancient porous structures. But 3I Atlas was fragmenting in a pattern that displayed unmistakable geometric precision. The pieces weren't randomly splitting. They were separating along mathematically defined trajectories, creating a distributed formation that maximized observational coverage of the inner solar system. I remember the phone call I received from a colleague at Caltech. His voice was shaking. "Michio," he said, "this isn't natural fragmentation. This is deployment." That word hung in the air between us for a long moment. Deployment. As if 3I Atlas wasn't a cosmic relic at all, but a carefully designed probe that had just activated its primary mission protocol. NASA immediately classified the detailed trajectory analysis. The European Space Agency went silent on their follow-up observations. The global astronomical community, usually so eager to publish and share discoveries, suddenly became very, very quiet. Those of us with security clearance were brought into a series of closed-door briefings that I still cannot fully discuss even now. But what I can tell you is this: the more we studied 3I Atlas, the less it behaved like any natural object we'd ever encountered. The fragments, and there were dozens of them, began exhibiting what we can only describe as coordinated behavior. They weren't following ballistic trajectories determined solely by the sun's gravity and their initial momentum. They were making micro-adjustments, tiny course corrections that required energy expenditure. They were maneuvering. One fragment altered its trajectory to pass within 8 million kilometers of Earth, close enough to conduct detailed observations of our planet, our atmosphere, our electromagnetic signature. Another positioned itself near Mars. 3 more moved into positions that gave them optimal viewing angles of the asteroid belt. almost as if they were surveying potential resources or cataloging the architecture of our solar system. We were being mapped, studied, evaluated. The implications of this began to settle over me like a dark, suffocating blanket. For years, I've spoken publicly about the Fermi paradox, that haunting question that keeps every astronomer awake at night. If the universe is so vast, so ancient, so filled with billions of potentially habitable worlds, then where is everybody? Where are the alien civilizations? Where are the radio signals, the megastructures, the signs of intelligence that should be impossible to miss? I've proposed many solutions to this paradox over the years. Perhaps advanced civilizations destroy themselves before they can colonize the stars. Perhaps the speed of light is an insurmountable barrier, making interstellar travel and communication so difficult that the galaxy remains fundamentally disconnected. Perhaps we're simply looking in the wrong places, listening for the wrong signals. But there's another solution to the Fermi paradox, one that I've mentioned only reluctantly in academic settings, one that most scientists avoid because of how deeply disturbing it is. The zoo hypothesis. The idea that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations know we're here, have always known we're here, and have made a deliberate choice not to reveal themselves. We're being observed, studied, perhaps even protected or quarantined, but always from a distance, always without our knowledge or consent. 3i Atlas, I began to realize, might be the first concrete evidence that we are living in that zoo. By July of 2020, as the world struggled with a pandemic and humanity retreated into isolation, something even more profound was happening in the darkness above us. The 3i Atlas fragments had taken up what can only be described as surveillance positions throughout the inner solar system. They weren't moving randomly anymore. They had settled into orbits, stable configurations that suggested long-term observation rather than a brief flyby. And then in September of that year, they began to transmit. I need you to understand something about the nature of information in space. The universe is not silent. It's actually quite noisy, filled with the electromagnetic chatter of pulsars, the radio emissions of active galactic nuclei, the cosmic microwave background radiation that echoes from the Big Bang itself. But these are natural phenomena, the sounds of physics and astrophysics playing out across billions of light years. They carry no message, no meaning, no intelligence behind them. What we detected coming from the 3i Atlas fragments was categorically different. These were artificial signals, narrowband radio transmissions operating at frequencies that don't occur naturally anywhere in the universe. The signals were weak, intentionally so, detectable only by our most sensitive instruments. They weren't broadcasting to us. You see, they were communicating with each other. The fragments were talking, sharing data, coordinating their observations in real time across millions of kilometers of space. We had stumbled onto a conversation we were never meant to hear. NASA's Deep Space Network picked up the first transmission at 1.42 gigahertz, the hydrogen line, a frequency that any technological civilization would naturally monitor. But the content of the transmission was unlike anything in our databases. It wasn't binary. It wasn't mathematics. It was something far more sophisticated, a data compression algorithm so advanced that our best supercomputers could barely begin to decode its structure. We've been working on that decryption for 4 years now. We're still working on it. And the fragments of information we have managed to extract, the tiny pieces we've successfully translated into something approaching human comprehension, have revealed a reality so staggering that I genuinely don't know if our civilization is ready to process it. Let me share what we know. The 3i Atlas system, and I use that word deliberately because it's now clear this is an integrated technological system, not a collection of random fragments, appears to be a distributed sensor network, what some of my colleagues have begun calling a reconnaissance swarm. Its purpose is systematic evaluation of stellar systems, cataloging planets, assessing atmospheric compositions, detecting technological signatures, and most importantly, determining the developmental stage of any civilizations present. Think of it as a cosmic census bureau moving from star to star, methodically documenting the emergence and evolution of intelligence throughout the galaxy. We are not the first solar system it has visited. Based on radiometric dating of its constituent materials and trajectory analysis, this system has been traveling through interstellar space for approximately 47,000 years. It has visited dozens, perhaps hundreds of stellar systems before ours. And here's what terrifies me. Every system it visits, it classifies. It assigns a status, a category, a designation that determines how the galaxy at large will interact with that system going forward. We've managed to decode what we believe is our classification code embedded in the transmission protocols between the fragments. The mathematics is complex, but the implication is crystal clear. Earth has been designated as a Class 7 developmental world, a planet with emerging technological capability, but insufficient socio-cultural maturity for contact. We are, in effect, under quarantine. This explains so much. The Great Silence, the absence of radio signals from extraterrestrial civilizations, the reason we seem so alone, despite the statistical near certainty that we're not. It's not that intelligence is rare in the universe, it's that advanced civilizations have established protocols, procedures, perhaps even laws governing how and when to interact with younger species. And those protocols apparently require observation, classification, and isolation until certain criteria are met. The zoo hypothesis isn't a hypothesis anymore. It's a documented reality, and we're the animals in the exhibit. But here's where things get truly disturbing, and why I'm speaking to you now, despite the professional risks I'm taking by doing so. Starting approximately 3 years after the fragments took up their surveillance positions, something changed. The transmission patterns altered. The data packets being exchanged between the fragments increased in frequency and complexity. And most ominously, the fragments began making new trajectory adjustments, subtle shifts that brought them into closer proximity to Earth and Mars. Whatever 3 Atlas was designed to do, whatever observation protocols it had been following, something had triggered a phase change in its mission parameters. We believe, and this is where I need you to really listen carefully, we believe that 3 Atlas has detected something about human civilization that has elevated our threat assessment, our rapid advancement in artificial intelligence, perhaps our development of quantum computing, our increasingly sophisticated space-based infrastructure, or maybe something more fundamental, something about the nature of human behavior, our tendency toward conflict, our nuclear arsenals, our environmental destruction. Whatever the trigger was, 3I Atlas has apparently determined that we've entered what I can only describe as a critical phase. A developmental stage that requires heightened scrutiny and possibly intervention. The fragments are no longer just watching, they're preparing. One of the fragments moved into a retrograde orbit around Earth, positioning itself where it could maintain continuous observation of our entire planet. Retrograde orbits are extraordinarily rare for natural objects. The energy required to achieve them is enormous, but this fragment executed the maneuver perfectly, settling into a stable trajectory that no natural comet fragment could possibly achieve. It's still there right now, silent, invisible to the naked eye, watching us every moment of every day. And 2 months ago, the transmission stopped. Just like that, after 4 years of constant communication between the fragments, the signals went dark. Complete radio silence. At first, we thought perhaps the system had moved out of range, or that some kind of malfunction had occurred. But trajectory analysis confirmed that the fragments are still in position, still maintaining their surveillance orbits, still actively present in our solar system. They simply stopped talking where we could hear them. There are 3 possible explanations for this, and I'm not sure which one frightens me more. The first possibility is that they've switched to a communication method we can't detect, a more secure protocol that doesn't leak radio transmissions we might intercept. The second possibility is that they finished their assessment and are now in a waiting state, having transmitted their full report to whoever or whatever deployed them in the first place. The third possibility, and this is what keeps me awake at night, is that they've stopped communicating because the observation phase has ended. They've moved into the next phase of their mission, whatever that might be. be. I've spent my entire career studying the mathematics of the impossible: wormholes, parallel universes, time travel, 11-dimensional hyperspace. I've explored ideas that most people would dismiss as pure fantasy, always using the rigorous language of physics to probe the boundaries of what reality might allow. And through all of that work, I've maintained a deep fundamental optimism about the universe and our place in it. But 3 Atlas has challenged that optimism in ways I'm still struggling to process. Because here's the truly profound question this raises: if we're being observed by a civilization capable of creating autonomous interstellar reconnaissance systems that can operate for tens of thousands of years, capable of faster than light communication, or at least information storage far beyond our comprehension, capable of making ethical judgments about which species are ready for contact and which aren't, then what does that say about our own future? Are we destined to remain forever behind this technological barrier, always classified as too primitive, too violent, too immature for the galactic community? Or is there a pathway forward, a set of developmental milestones we need to achieve before the quarantine is lifted and we're allowed to take our place among the intelligent species of the cosmos? And most troubling of all, what happens to civilizations that fail these tests? The ones that advance technologically but not ethically, that develop the power to destroy themselves before they develop the wisdom to survive. Does 3 Atlas simply move on, marking another solar system as a failed experiment? Or is there something more active, more interventionist in its programming? I don't have answers to these questions. Nobody does. We're operating in a realm of uncertainty that science is fundamentally uncomfortable with, trying to understand the motivations and methods of an intelligence so far beyond our own that we might be no more capable of understanding them than a mouse could understand quantum mechanics. But I do know this: we're at a crossroads as a species. The presence of 3I Atlas in our solar system, the fact that we're being watched and evaluated, means that the choices we make in the coming years and decades carry implications far beyond our planet. Every decision about artificial intelligence development, every choice about how we manage our climate crisis, every step toward or away from global cooperation and peace. These aren't just local issues anymore. They're being recorded, analyzed, judged by intelligences we can't see and don't understand. We're performing on a cosmic stage, and we only just realize the audience is there. The scientific community is deeply divided on how to respond to this reality. Some argue that we should attempt communication, try to send a message to the 3I Atlas fragments, acknowledging that we know they're there and requesting dialogue. Others insist that any such attempt would be catastrophically premature, that revealing our awareness might trigger protective protocols we're not ready for. There's even a faction, and I'll admit I found myself sympathizing with this view more than I'd like, that argues we should say nothing publicly about this at all, that the general population isn't ready to grapple with the existential implications of confirmed extraterrestrial surveillance. Better to let people continue believing we're alone, they say, than to trigger the kind of mass psychological crisis that could destabilize civilization at the very moment we need to be our most rational and united. But I can't accept that. I've spent too many years advocating for scientific transparency, for public education about the universe and our place in it. If we're truly being tested, if our developmental stage is being evaluated, then part of that evaluation must surely include how we handle difficult truths, how honestly we face challenging realities, how courageously we confront the unknown. So I'm telling you this now, despite the controversy it will create, despite the professional consequences I'll likely face, because I believe you have a right to know. You have a right to understand that we are not alone, that we've never been alone, and that the apparent silence of the universe is not emptiness, but rather evidence of a structure, a system, perhaps even a galactic civilization, so advanced and so careful that it has remained invisible to us until we develop the technology to accidentally stumble onto its surveillance infrastructure. The galaxy is alive with intelligence, but that intelligence has chosen, for reasons we don't yet fully understand, to keep us isolated until we prove ourselves worthy of contact. What does worthiness look like to an intelligence that can build autonomous systems lasting tens of thousands of years? What criteria are we being judged against? These are questions that philosophers, ethicists, scientists, and yes, even religious thinkers will need to grapple with in the years ahead. Because 3i Atlas has given us the most profound gift any young civilization could receive. Certain knowledge that we're being watched, and therefore certain knowledge that how we develop from this point forward matters to someone other than ourselves. Every choice we make about our future is now a choice we're making in full view of intelligences we cannot see but know are there recording, evaluating, perhaps even preparing to respond. I think about my grandchildren when I contemplate this reality. What kind of world will they inherit? Will it be one where we rose to the challenge, where we matured as a species quickly enough to satisfy whatever criteria 3i Atlas is using to evaluate us? Will they live to see the quarantine lifted, to receive that first official contact, to take humanity's first steps into a larger cosmic community we can barely imagine? Or will they live in a world where we failed the test, where we destroyed ourselves or our environment or our capacity for rational thought before we could demonstrate that we deserved a place among the stars? Will they look up at a night sky knowing that somewhere out there the 3i Atlas fragments are moving away, heading to the next solar system on their endless survey, marking Earth as just another cautionary tale in a galaxy full of species that almost made it? The thing that haunts me most is this. We don't know what happens when 3 Atlas completes its assessment. We don't know if a positive evaluation leads to contact, to an invitation to join some kind of galactic community. And we really don't know what a negative evaluation triggers. Continued isolation, active containment, or something worse? The fragments are still there, still in position, still watching. They've entered a phase of their mission that we don't understand, operating under protocols we haven't decoded. And that uncertainty, that not knowing, is perhaps the most scientifically and emotionally challenging aspect of this entire situation. As a physicist, I'm trained to seek understanding, to find patterns in chaos, to derive meaning from mathematics. But 3i Atlas operates under rules we didn't write, using technology we can't comprehend, serving purposes we can only guess at. It's humbling in a way that cuts right to the core of what it means to be human, to be aware of your own limitations while desperately wanting to transcend them. I look at the night sky differently now. I always have, of course. Once you understand that every point of light is a sun, potentially with its own planets, its own possibility for life, the sky transforms from a pretty backdrop into a vast arena of cosmic possibility. But now there's something else there too. Now I know that at least some of those possibilities have already found us, have already made judgments about us, have already placed us within some framework of cosmic evaluation we're only beginning to comprehend. It's terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. We stand at a threshold unlike any in human history. Previous generations could speculate about extraterrestrial intelligence, could wonder and theorize and imagine, but our generation right now, we have to actually grapple with its confirmed existence, with the reality of being observed subjects in a study we never consented to participate in. And perhaps most importantly, we have to figure out how to mature as a species quickly enough to satisfy whatever standards are being applied to us, all while not knowing precisely what those standards are or who set them. It's like being in school but not knowing what the test will cover, not knowing when it will be administered, not knowing what grade we need to pass, and not knowing what happens if we fail. Except instead of affecting our academic future, the results will determine humanity's cosmic future for potentially thousands or millions of years to come. The phases that 3 Atlas has moved through, arrival, deployment, observation, classification, and now this new phase that we don't yet understand, these aren't just scientific curiosities to be studied and cataloged. They're markers in a process that will determine whether our species remains forever confined to our small corner of space, or whether we eventually join whatever community of intelligence exists out there in the vast darkness between the stars. As I finish speaking to you now, those fragments are still up there, silent but active, watching our every move. They've seen our wars and our peace treaties. They've observed our technological progress and our environmental degradation. They've monitored our radio signals, our internet, our artificial intelligence experiments, our nuclear stockpiles. They've witnessed the best and worst of what humanity has to offer. And based on what they've seen, they've made determinations about us that we may not learn for years, decades, or even centuries. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Really let it sink in. The universe has looked at us and made a judgment. We're being graded on a cosmic scale, and we don't even know if we're passing. This channel will continue to explore these questions, to share new developments as they emerge, to help us all navigate this unprecedented territory together. Because if there's one thing I'm certain of, it's that we're stronger together than we are alone, and that the more minds we have grappling with these profound questions, the better our chances of finding answers that serve all of humanity. Follow this journey as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings, or perhaps its first invitations. The story of 3 Atlas is far from over. In fact, I suspect it's barely begun. But I'll leave you with a question that keeps me awake, staring at the ceiling in the dark hours before dawn. If we knew with absolute certainty that we were being watched and judged by an intelligence far beyond our own, would we live differently? Would we make different choices? Would we treat each other and our planet with more wisdom and compassion? And if the answer is yes, if we would live better knowing we're being observed, then what does that say about us? Does it mean we're only good when someone's watching? Or does it mean we've always had the capacity for greatness and all we needed was a reason to reach for it? The 3I Atlas fragments are up there right now, in this very moment, recording our answer. What will it be?